Sid, do you lead us off in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, you might as well come up here and sit here. There was quite a lot of fanfare, I guess, when the Long Island Railroad went up to RFP to try to put somebody in that Second Street Railroad. And there was one bid that's probably not what everybody hoped for, but it's a taxi cab company. They've vetted them. We really have no say in the matter. It's their building. It's actually their parking. Apparently we have a lease with that parking, but I don't know that that's even a real written document. But the cab company, it's a, I don't remember the name.
They're out of Port Jefferson, I believe.
It's a well-respected company, he said. I don't know if he told us the name.
They did requisite background checks. They had a few people that were interested. I think that if you looked at their RFP, it required that they maintain the area, that they're going to leave the bathrooms open and keep them clean, just to have traffic in and out of there. This particular applicant really is just utilizing the second story from that.
Jeff, can you have Tara come in and turn the feedback? We're getting feedback here. Somebody's playing with the microphones again. So the only thing that they said
They need from us.
and I don't know that we could give it to them. I don't know that we want to give it to them. They want to be able to park the cabs overnight in the train station parking lot.
The ones right next door, right adjacent to the building.
This west side?
Yes.
West side?
Yes.
That's where the buses are one time, they're supposed to be parked.
So
If taxi cab stands in our zoning ordinance,
No, that's not overnight parking, is it?
it's probably not zone for overnight parking.
no, I don't think we have taxi cab stands in our ordinance.
Well, they're probably going to say they're not.
But they're exempt from
They're
zoning.
exempt from our zoning because of the type of facility it is.
I'm surprised there was only one person that responded. There were people talking about a cafe, there were people talking about,
And they even were soliciting people. They tried to go to Dunkin' Donuts, they tried to go.
Right.
there were people that did the walkthrough that were like, yeah, we want to do this.
Well, the only thing I can say is that I believe that it's accurate they're exempt from the zoning. There's nothing, they'd like to know that the town somewhat supports this. From a personal my personal opinion is I don't necessarily like a cab company in there, but it's better than nothing.
Nothing.
And
Well,
they
plus-
clean it, and they leave the
Take care
bathroom.
of their
Plus, I
own.
think they'll keep the outside clean,
And now that's,
all right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as he wants to use the upstairs, and the gentleman from MTA said that this particular vendor said that if he could get somebody in there in the bottom floor, like a Dunkin' Donuts or something, he'd be willing to do that,
Oh, right.
and there would be flexibility, but that's not anything that he has planned.
Certainly have the police there, that's for sure.
So-
How big is upstairs?
It's pretty big.
It is, I have never been upstairs.
Yeah, it's, it's a vaulted type ceiling, obviously, a loft type ceiling, I guess.
Right.
But you can stand, there's plenty of ceiling height, and there's doghouse dormers on, so you would have to finish the upstairs. And all that, that's good for the train station. So they want to know whether we support it, and I don't think that it's,
I think it's the parking issue that they're asking you to decide though.
How many cars do they plan on parking there overnight, and when does the first train come in, and when do they plan on dispatching the cars, and are they having a taxi stand where they have somebody standing there like they do in the city, okay, when someone comes in on the
I
train?
can
get
find
them
that
in.
out for you.
Well,
Why
I
don't we
don't think
just
it's
give
just
the
for
phone
the
number?
train. I think it's for Riverhead itself. If they're gonna have an office there, then people are gonna call and
Right.
say, I need
Yeah,
a.
that's
the town.
So I think it's not just for the trains, I think it's gonna be for everybody.
So the cars are gonna be there all day?
So that'll probably be there all day and, at night, probably.
Well, I don't think it's used a lot now, is it, this parking spots?
No,
They use it
no,
for the
So
courts.
No,
Nobody
they're
uses
not
it.
used.
So
that's,
I don't
that's,
think that should be a problem.
every time I drive by there, there's never, the only people, just very few people that use the train station, I think it's a lot of drop-offs.
Yeah.
So it's not a parking issue, it's just a question of, is it better to have, they probably don't, if it's their property, they probably don't need to worry about us telling them it's okay for overnight parking or anything like that, because, you know, their position is they're exempt from the zoning, and I probably think they are. So, the question for us really is, do we want to support this over nothing? Because this, to rebid it again after this gentleman, what's it, John Coyne, he beat the,
Yeah, he did, he tried to solicit businesses.
I
Just
couldn't
was
find
unsuccessful.
anything.
But I think that we should look at it hard, right, because they will keep the building clean. They maybe will disperse people that stay there all day, because they don't want their customers to come in. So it may help the town to have that building occupied, even if it's for a taxi cab company, because we're just moving forward.
I agree, it's better than having a porta potty that's, the
Yeah.
town pays for a
Yeah.
Well,
porta potty.
absolutely, I would support it,
Yeah.
yes.
Well,
Yeah, occupying it now, it's,
well, the lease is between the MTA and
Yeah.
nothing really to do with us, so.
Yeah.
No,
really
we
has
have
nothing-
nothing to do with the lease, but they just want us to
Just
say
a parking
we
issue.
will accept this and the
Yes,
town.
across
That's
the board.
basically what it is. I think.
Yeah, well, the only reason they pushed forward the lease was because we asked for it. We asked them to do an RFP, and, I personally made phone calls to different companies to try to get them in there, but
The local realtors were down there too.
I guess my only concern is that it's one cab company that's gonna be there with their 20 cars or 25 cars, and if they say to other cab companies, you can dispatch out of here, and then it turns into 50 cars or 60 cars, and then, you know what I'm saying? So I would want it to be exclusive, that the cars that will be parked in our lot would be exclusive to the company that's there, and the cars would be registered.
it's not our lot.
It's not,
No, but the problem we have there is that we have taxi cabs now lined up both sides of the street. East of the railway station, there's taxi cabs lined up along the curb. And when the trains come in on the south side, across from this parking lot, there's taxi cabs lined up there also. So, it's not a problem of taxi cabs, we have that problem now. What is the overnight parking of the cabs.
but if it's
that
not
isn't
our lot,
transportation
no,
though, though.
it's not our
It's
lot.
Even it's lot across the street
No, no.
is not ours.
Huh?
Is that what you mean?
No,
No, the lot they want to use was along, he said that
Yeah.
they have some sort of license agreement with it, but I asked him if he could produce that, and he didn't have it,
So it's not our lot, it's not our train station,
It's-
so what are we
yeah.
talking about?
It's about 15,
If we tell them no, they'll say
on
no.
the
Oh,
west
okay.
side.
So
Looking for a blessing.
About
they're looking
15
for our
stalls on the
blessings.
west side.
We're the ones that asked them to do it.
How long's the lease for?
Is it a renewal of 5, or is it just 5?
I'm sure.
He's in court until.
And then
It's not bad, I mean, I remember back in '83, they redid the entire railroad avenue, making it a transportation center, so.
It is
Eventually, we
transportation.
wanted buses and everything else, so it's like, it's gonna be a TOD one of these days.
Yeah.
Talk to the taxis, yeah.
Doesn't say.
And they have that dumpster down the end of the parking lot, which I don't know who takes care of that. It was out for a while, now it's back again.
Whose is it?
I don't know.
He is, he's coming.
It's probably not even, it's probably sitting on MTA property, and it's probably not their dumpster.
But it's been there, we had problems with the overfill, the dumpster was empty, and they took it out. Now I see it's back there again, but I don't see any garbage in it, so I
I
mean.
don't know whose dumpster
You
it is.
know.
And that would probably be
Yeah.
watched more carefully too.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, because they'll watch that too. So I mean, it's not a win-win for the town, but actually, we're halfway there.
It's better than what we
It's
have.
better than what we have, that's right.
All
Right?
right, so I guess the consensus is we tell them to move forward, with it, and it has to be contained to their MTA property. We're not gonna allow it on our property. Although you're not gonna stop people from parking their cabs during the day in the town lot.
Yeah.
But can we make a recommendation that the cars that are parked there are exclusive to the company
Yeah,
that's
I
leasing
can
it
say
from the?
that's what you guys are suggesting. I don't think people are gonna drive to take a cab, but we can say.
No, right, yeah.
Yeah, but I'll
I
ask.
don't want them to subsidize because
Right.
we don't have it in our ordinance, so you can't open up a taxi company and put a parking lot in and park your cabs there. So if there's a locally based cab company or a cab company from West Hampton that wants to park a few cars there, they could be paying this
Yeah,
leasee
right.
to be able to park there, so.
Well, I think that if it's MTA property, and they have a lease sublease for that area, they can probably do anything.
I doubt they'd be able to sublease.
I was gonna
Yeah,
say, I
right?
seriously
Can they
doubt.
sublease? I don't know if they can sublease.
I just want
They-
to, request it, that's all.
Concern.
Yeah.
I love them.
Good.
All right.
So, EMD transportation.
All right, so we'll move forward as we see what happens.
Thank you.
All right, we need Bill Duffy on
I'll
Concordia.
call on Bill for you.
How come
Go
I
ahead.
didn't get any, workshop?
I don't know, this cab company.
Because there's not a lot of people there.
Yeah.
There's really not. I mean, the business you got there is you got the old Sanders,
Hey,
you got a
for-
grocery store,
Thanks, Bob.
mostly Spanish grocery store. There's not a lot of foot traffic other than those that are
Yeah.
hanging around waiting to be picked up for day jobs or whatever.
No.
That's why I'm having some lines.
Let everybody know, there's a new deli on Osborne Avenue,
Yeah,
at
the
the
old
railroad
Goldings.
tracks. Yeah?
The old Goldings.
The old Goldings.
They took it over.
The Spanish people that own Speedies, that
So,
So I would want people to go and patronize, so that business can stay there and not,
there's another location that's subject to no real foot traffic, which is why it doesn't.
Yes.
Unless you make a point to go there, it's not something that it's over
Right.
there.
yeah, you really have to survive over there, probably on takeout deliveries and type
Yeah,
thing.
you almost.
But, having these camp cars companies park there, they'll probably get more business from them.
That's true.
I heard you say to me that
That's what I heard.
These
It's
people-
not
his
his-
family.
Why, you
Huh?
don't think it's
Well,
terrible?
no, he's saying no. Huh?
Yes, it's the same thing. Yes, I can.
Okay, so it is this one.
Right, yes, I said, yes, yes.
Oh, I didn't know, is this Speedy Deli?
Yeah. See what taxes they can walk over. It's a
Yeah,
Spanish.
before they get the car and go out with that.
Is it?
Gary just works there.
Okay.
Gary sold it to it.
So I hope them success.
Absolutely. Just waiting for Bill Duffy. Rick, what are those site plan?
They were up for a planning board meeting last week.
If we can put them.
That's McDonald's, right? McDonald's wants to put a
McDonald's.
condition on or something?
Yeah.
Is it McDonald's in Waiting River?
No,
River,
on Main Road.
I think they wanna,
Drive medium for now to building.
I don't know how people, you ever see that morning line?
yeah. I really want that.
One second drive-through.
Where's the run? That line
I
is
love
so
Big Mac.
long.
That's why they want for a second drive-through.
They went for a second queue.
I said to my wife the other
Yeah, the
day,
Big Mac is my favorite sandwich.
You're on line for a half hour before you get to,
I love the Big Mac
put your order
sandwich.
in.
Wait a minute, we've got it. You've never had a Big Mac? That's un-American.
Yeah, it's
Do you know how to
Never.
say?
probably the best hamburger sandwich I've had.
Can somebody get this man a Big Mac?
No.
Start now, right?
You've had a Big, well, when we knock on doors, we get those, the hamburgers just to eat something with.
Yes.
I would bring you a Big Mac. Are you, you're not, are you vegetarian?
He said he wants the 100 years, so.
Are you vegan?
Good
What's wrong
morning.
with the Big Mac?
Good morning.
Big Mac will help you live 100 years.
You actually were.
Preservatives in it?
Oh, that's 2 all-beef patty special sauce. You heard.
Because onions on
That's
it.
right.
All right.
My first job at 15 years old.
So here's the, we need to figure out where we're going with Concordia. Generally speaking, well, I support the application. I think it's necessary. I think we need this type of facility in the town. 20% of our residents are over 62 years old. We've got, probably 1,500 to 1,000 residents right on, I'm gonna say 1,000 residents right on Middle Road. The proximity, everything to me about this location seems to work.
Go there.
Well, I think it was a 5-0 vote, I think, to create the legislation. So I think the whole board is poised to say we recognize this as a viable type of zoning in Riverhead. There's no doubt that we think that the town's moving in that direction, we need to continue to care. But I thought at this point, this application went before the Suffolk County Planning Commission, which is the applicant's next step, and they, for some reason, for valid reasons, found problems with the application.
Well,
So why is it back before?
It's
this
not.
one?
What happened was the planning staff at Suffolk, Santa's here.
Santa's here, uh-oh. Good morning,
Santa.
Santa.
Good morning, ho, ho,
Doesn't look like he's eating Big Macs either.
That's right.
Santa, you need a big
ho.
bag.
Couple of gifts for town board.
Oh, my God. Should I leave the room?
I'm worried.
See, huh?
Oh, Santa.
Wow,
So, as a
Santa,
town-
thank you.
Thank you, Santa Claus.
What time of the year?
That time of the year, you're
Because
right.
we've been naughty and nice. I'm worried about opening it, but Santa, thank you very much.
Thank you for all doing a good job.
Naughty and nice.
Most of the time.
Let's see what this
Thank you,
is.
Santa.
I'm a little worried.
Thank you.
So have a nice Christmas.
Merry
Oh, thank you very much.
And a healthy new year.
Thank you. Merry Christmas, Santa Claus. And send that chocolate.
You got cold.
Very nice.
Yeah, dark chocolate. Very nice. Thank you,
Dark
Santa.
chocolate is good for you. It is.
In moderation. It's like,
So you've eaten dark chocolate, but not Big Macs.
My only question, and I asked, I think
didn't like us.
is, I thought the county regulations were that it was 500 feet, close to a county highway, it has to go there. This is more than 500 feet, so it's,
the only criteria that would require referral is that it's within 500 feet of a parcel within an agricultural district, which is a parcel directly across,
oh, okay, oh, I thought it was from a county highway.
well,
I may be
highway,
corrected.
state highway, town boundary, state park, there's criteria in the town law.
Right,
The last criteria that was added was 500 feet from an agricultural district.
okay.
All right,
That's
so
the reason we got it.
it's odd the way this took place because the planning staff wrote a resolution, county planning staff wrote a resolution to approve it, and the county planning staff supported the application based on, I guess, information they were gathering and the application itself, and maybe speaking with board members. And then at the meeting, one representative basically spoke out against it, and then it lost in its vote. It lost the vote. The planning staff, the county planning staff, I understand, still supports the application. And what our question is, and the chairman, there wasn't a chairman at the time, or maybe there was a chairman, but I don't know. The chairman, Dave
I think
Colon,
what
was back.
happened was he moved his residence, so until they did something about reappointing him, he was not there.
And he's
What are you
back.
talking about?
Dave
Is
Colon.
that-
So, County Planning Commission Chairman.
But I think we're getting off focus here, let me just follow my thought here. It went to the planning commission, who voted on it, and rejected it, right? So they send it back,
Recommended denial.
right, so it comes back to us, we need a supermajority to pass it.
No, you don't. You can refer it back to.
No,
the
no,
planning
no,
commission.
follow the process, we understand, but it's been done how many times?
It's
Never
rare.
seen it done in Riverhead, it's
very
rare. Okay, let's just follow what's happened here, so it came
But
back.
it's in their guidelines.
Right, it can happen, I understand that, but it's a question how we get there. So it came back to us, our planning board was gonna look at it. Am I correct?
They have-
With a recommendation back to our board.
They deliberated on it last meeting, and they directed me to prepare a report to you.
Right. And just something I got from Dick O'Day, and I'll read it, I just got it on Tuesday. The comments and opinion of the planning board members varied in degree of opposition relating to the characterization of public health, the absence of transfer development rights or preservation credit implementation for increased density and proposed affordability intended for residents. So it seems to me that our planning board is not looking favorable upon it. Now, they were going to get a recommendation and give it to us.
They're going to give you a written
Right.
recommendation.
And then the process is, it would come to us, and we would vote on it. But obviously, the vote isn't here for it.
Well, a lot
I'm
of the,
thinking, so what's gonna happen,
a lot of the
apparently?
discussions at the planning board level were not about this parcel,
Right.
was about the text.
Right,
That we didn't refer the text to them. So a lot of the commentary of the members.
and there's a
had to
big
do
question
with
about
the text.
affordability, if this being a benefit to town of Riverhead, we can get
But
into
those-
that.
and that's all
But
text.
so anyway, so follow the normal procedure, their recommendation would come to us, we would vote on it. Obviously, there's not enough votes here to pass it,
I don't say that's
on this
obvious.
board, on this
I
board.
don't, I don't.
Well, I
say
think
that's
so,
obvious.
I think so, then why does it come to a vote?
What I'm saying.
Why are we pushing back to the planning department?
Listen, George,
I'm
if
just asking a
you're
question.
taking this, it sounds like you're taking this, what I'm saying is, we can refer it back to the planning commission. The planning commission, from what I understand, still, not the commission, but the county staff still seems to support this application.
Right.
So we
I have-
as a board,
I have two questions.
and we only need 3 members of the town board now to refer it back to the planning commission.
Right.
And so
I
what
agree.
I'm saying is if there's 3 members of the town board willing to refer this back to the planning commission, then we refer it back to the planning commission.
Is that, look, I have two questions. One, this is not dark chocolate, this is cold. Just to let you know.
Did you take a
Hey,
bite out?
well,
Did everyone get cold?
I thought it looked kind of weird. And it hurt my
I
teeth.
smelled it, but it smells like a candy cane.
Just to let you know.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
There's some kind of planning commission. We know what their concerns were. And they, some of them were valid. They talked about agricultural prime soils, they talked about the ER program, they talked about a lot of things with that particular site. So I understand in theory why they disapproved the application. So, wouldn't it, I mean, I'm fairly new to this, but wouldn't the applicant at that point address those concerns and resubmit anyway?
It doesn't come from the applicant, it comes from the town.
The town board, so what have they done to correct any of those concerns, or are they just lobbied enough to think that they're gonna push it through as is?
Well, I've given the supervisor a narrative on what's considered reconsideration.
We,
Okay.
It appears that the
Material
municipality
facts.
would have to refer it back, and then it would be up to the commission to find affirmatively by resolution that there was certain material facts and part of the discussion, whatever it might be.
I want to.
I don't know if that's
Okay,
our
so-
job, I think it's their job.
This is what's problematic to me.
Probably right.
This is what's problematic to me. We have an elected board here, 5 members, that voted 5-0 to recommend, to adopt the zoning. We labored over this for 2 years. I understand the planning board may not like the zoning, but we labored for 2 years over that. The planning board should have weighed in over that 2-year laboring period. They're all members of the town, they're all employees of the town, they're all involved in the process, they should have weighed in. The zoning text is done. My biggest problem with this is that our representative on the planning commission went against the majority of the town board when he knew, because he asked my staff whether the majority of the town board supported this. And so the question what I find problematic is you had a non-elected representative of the town that should be working to do the things that the town board wants.
We appointed.
One person killed an entire project, and that's what happened. One unelected person killed an entire project, and I think that's wrong. And that's why
I think the zoning for a refinement, we all recognize we need that. They didn't kill the zoning, they killed, I'm saying this particular project for this applicant is different than what we face the zoning. Some of the things he doesn't fill into, it doesn't, I mean, we can talk about affordability. How does this affordability, this particular project is not an affordable thing for the town?
But wouldn't that come into
Does
site?
$50,000 a year rent
George,
need an affordable
one
project?
unelected person killed this
You
project.
have 9 members of the planning commission voted.
I would
Against it.
like the town board to re-refer it back to the planning commission, because I believe that without the leadership of the chairman, who was missing at that time, things were said and done, and the county planning staff was blindsided because everybody was seeming to indicate that we wanted this. I think that a fair look should be taken on this again, because I just find it problematic that one unelected person, and our representative to boot, killed it, and I don't see how that person would have the authority, especially knowing that the town board supported this.
Yeah,
George,
but
can I
it's-
ask you one
but
question?
I have a problem with that and saying that the town board supported this, and that our representative went to your staff and said, how does the town board feel about this location for this type
It
of
didn't.
zoning?
No.
It didn't go to staff, let's clear that up. He did not go to staff according to law, so that's erroneous. This is
I
erroneous.
had a conversation with him, but he did not come to me and ask me for the advice of the town board.
Right, okay, so we'll straighten that.
Yeah, I don't think this really has to be
Well, it's not,
contentious. This is,
Character.
this is very simple. This is I think the town in general, at least elected officials, and I like the fact that people that aren't elected are making some of these decisions, because there's a lot less influence over people that aren't elected.
This is a major
But-
decision of the town, Jim.
It is, and we all support the legislation to create this type of zoning. I think maybe the legislation was drafted to almost too site-specific instead of general, and maybe that's part of the problem, but I think we support the concept of assisted living, we always have. I don't have a problem with that. But I think the problem lies in have some, whether it's one person that advocated to kill us or what, but some of the concerns listed in their report are, to me, are valid. So, and if they haven't been addressed on its face at all, just resubmit it now because now you got somebody else here who might advocate better, I don't know.
Well, I think the concerns that were raised in front of the planning board
Yeah, this is
are
here.
concerns that.
Planning board, the planning commission.
The planning board here and the commission is site plan, not the zoning, but I think the questions have to do with site plan. And I think those questions can be answered when they go to site plan, if they go to site plan for this. I just don't know. And then we appointed this representative, and he gave the impression that the town was against us. And I think that if we appoint this, he should represent the elected officials
I agree.
in the town, and not his own thinking, or the thinking of one or two people. He won't talk to us, so I mean, I don't know what he was thinking of. He said that we have no influence over what he decides.
which is true.
That is not true.
No, they don't bother.
George,
They don't bother.
we appointed him to represent
Look at their
us,
charter, what
so we should have, be able
this
to talk
person
to him.
will,
Yeah, but
That's what I'm
But
saying.
They follow the charter.
we also chose him because we're a big agricultural society, and he was from the farm community, and we thought that we would be best served by a person of that nature. And when this property is zoned APZ and it's surrounded by farms, then what position, would we?
Wait a minute, where is it surrounded by farms?
It's got the Barisney farm on one side, it's got the
It
farm
has
across the
horses on
street.
one side,
east is
it
a
has
farm,
horses on the east,
north
no
side's,
farming.
north side's another farm,
Where?
right across the street.
That's horses now.
Yeah, what's a farm? And then
Well, it's-
north,
okay.
east, and if you
But if
head,
they're not farming, they're not tilling the soil, they're not putting
well,
stuff
it's a
down.
farm.
The horses on the,
And you go to west side, that's Bresnick's, goes up by
Oh,
Bresnick. So you got three sides with farms. The south side is the,
Okay,
so
this
whatever,
is-
that's not the,
John Dunleavy
issues.
very eloquently put it, and I've been accused a lot of maybe not being able to speak plain language to people, but you're 100% right. This board, through the entire process, knew the location, knew the site, knew the applicant.
We never knew how many units they were
You cannot
proposing.
shake your head no, we knew what we were doing.
We-
Can you let me finish?
Yes,
This board understood, my personal opinion was that this would be a great thing at EPCAL, and I'd love to see this at EPCAL. And so I advocated for the 15 acres, the sewer system, things like that, so it didn't pop up all over the place. And I really do find it problematic that it's actually a county appointment. We recommend to the county executive, and then he recommends the appointment. But I find it very problematic that our representative was able to take the opinion of 5 members of the board and disregard it, because we as 5 members voted for this, we knew what we were doing, and then change the whole outlook of this, because I believe in elected representatives making the decisions, and this gentleman is not that. So all I'm asking for you is, and all we need to know is this, are there 3 votes here to ask the planning commission to take another hard look at this?
I think what you have to do is direct the town clerk to refer. That's the process.
Are there 3 votes?
we'll have that in a second, but I'm just saying, this person has made an awareness to me of things, and that's why they probably have planning commissions of different situations, APZ, et cetera, the farm. So a lot of awareness was made because of this, so we should thank this person because they made different ones on the board aware of things we weren't aware of before.
Well, he's not-
But anyway, you can go ahead
He's not
and do your
making
role.
the board aware, he's making you aware. You're not making the board aware.
He never told me
He
anything.
never
Oh,
told me.
yes,
anything.
what he told you
Huh?
is, by your report you got back from, did you read it?
Yes.
About the APZ and the farm awareness,
I
that's
got
what I'm saying,
that.
and then we all looked at it, I was down the site, et cetera, like that.
But we knew that. Because nobody on this board didn't know
Well,
one of
it
those
followed.
locations.
Process, and here's we are now.
Because
I
one,
can tell
I
you
don't care
that
if it's 1 or 110.
we have
It's-
not had the public hearing for the zoning change application. I was not aware of the fact that there was a significant wetland on the property, that's a DEC wetland. I was not aware of the fact that this is prime agricultural soil. In the master plan, it said everything north of Route 58 should be APZ because they wanted to keep high-density housing and commercial development more towards Route 58, and everything north should be APZ. And I'm not reading in this staff report that they support it. I'm reading that it does not attempt to preserve prime agricultural soils in recognition of the natural conditions on the site. An examination of a cluster alternative for the development proposal would appear to be appropriate. There should be transfer of development rights, tool that could be utilized to preserve other local
I
properties
don't
in
even know what you're
PPZ.
reading from.
This is the staff report from Suffolk County Planning. You said the
Is there
planning,
is there a recommendation at the end?
no. Well,
Staff
I
recommendation?
have to bring some of the same questions our planning board brought up about TDRs, I'm just saying.
yeah,
I think
I
it's a
mean,
It's an
You know,
affordable
it's-
project.
the
trying to make this-
recommendation is not to approve or disapprove. It just pulls out the same things that I was just reading in the
We're
staff.
trying to
report.
make this affordable and benefit for this town.
Right.
And the only way we can do that is the farm community has to help us. And they have to give a little bit, and they did. The Farm Bureau supports this. Someone told me the Farm Bureau didn't support this. I spoke to Joe, and he supports us 100%.
And I've talked to members of the board that didn't support it,
But
so.
that's,
well, yeah,
that's
make
the
it-
same
but that's-
scenario that
but-
you're
but-
accusing our representative of in going before Suffolk County Planning Commission is that the person that's representing us said that we
Not the
don't
Farm
support it,
Bureau
and Joe
doesn't.
Regella saying he does support it, but it doesn't have
How
like,
is that the same?
Yeah.
Joe Regella doesn't work for the town, isn't a representative of the
no,
town.
but he's one person with an opinion, and if, unless I saw something in writing from him as the director of the Long Island Farm Bureau that says that the farm community supports this, you know, I wouldn't make a blanket statement that the farm community supports this.
I said he supports this. I didn't say the farm community. And the other second thing is, do you drive some of these highways in the town where that? Because you can't drive Middle Road without going past that wetland. It isn't a large wetland. It's a small, wetland on Middle Road. So anybody that drives past there, certainly you probably don't, but I mean, anybody that drives past Middle Road in this area will see the wetlands on the right-hand side. There's a big,
It's a wooded area that's got quite a
Yes,
big hole, in it.
yeah.
It's not small, I would say,
so I
it's big
mean,
and small.
everybody up there knows there's a wetland next to that house.
Unless I've walked it, I
Yeah,
wouldn't
it's
know
wooded,
it,
it's screened by
but
woods, you
I-
have to go in the hole.
I
Yeah,
could,
there's a
I
hole-
could
there's
see,
a
A
hole.
lot of Mill Road
You know,
actually drains it.
I
You know.
could see a rural corridor down Middle Road with, you know, retirement community houses that are
But
set back.
when we get something, we should go out and investigate and see what we're passing and what we're doing. And
Well, if we
it seems to
would.
me we're not doing that.
John.
My biggest concern is, I advocate for the legislation. I think it's
Yes.
a great addition to this Riverhead, who's becoming a senior community for the most part. This is the next continuum for that type of care. So I don't want my advocating for that type of legislation to be hooked into a specific project. I think it's two separate issues. So one of the recommendations they made was, other locations within the town of Riverhead are appropriate for this particular land use while the agricultural resource is financially safeguarded through existing zoning. So I think we're talking about a location more than we are about a concept. I support the concept 1,000%. I think the location, I know we were looking at trying to make effect, I think you were opposed to this particular location at first, Sean, but then, because you wanted, I know you wanted it
I
tied
wanted
into
it
sewer.
in the sewer
Sewer
district. I was
district.
not opposed to the location, I
Okay.
wanted it in the sewer district.
So I think, I'd still like to see some of the, I think some of these concerns that the Suffolk County Planning Commission had, should be addressed somewhat, unless you're just gonna,
What
they
I
want
wanna-
to give the exact same application again?
And we can try to address some of these concerns in the re-referral. That's not a problem. I support, you know why I support this location?
But they would be doing, we would just support them in their referral, we're not,
No, we do the referral, but we,
You need to direct the staff to prepare additional information for their consideration.
Yes. And
which would address some of these concerns.
I think the only reason they'll look at it again is if there's some stuff that to be considered that wasn't considered the first time.
Right.
And that's one criteria they have,
It's full
for
reconsideration.
taking this back. So we have to show them that some criteria was not looked at the first time they looked at this application.
Or the application can be amended in some fashion to take into the consideration.
That's why a lot of them don't go back, because there's no additional information.
Well, it's going back,
That would support you.
John, it's going back for one reason. Because if it comes up for vote here, I think it's not gonna pass. So this is another tack. It's clear.
You know why I support this?
It's-
You know why I support this? You have, again, at least 1,500, probably 2,000 seniors surrounding this parcel. And I'm sorry, but when your loved one needs to go into a nursing home, you don't want to be driving like I had to drive all the way to Medford. You want them home. You don't necessarily want them in Calverton as much as I want them in Calverton. You want them close to home. You don't want your 100-year-old father
but we're not
driving.
supporting Concordia,
And
that's,
so-
that's
let
not
me
the same
finish.
thing, though.
So having this in that location, I understand that it's the prime soils, but there has to be balance against the needs of 20% of this population to be able to access a facility within a mile or two driving distance, because I have to tell you, most seniors that are 80, 90 years old aren't driving that distance to see their loved ones, and this is, it's wrong, in my opinion, not to have it. It should have been part of the zoning, it should have been in the same exact area.
You're preaching to the choir, because this board supports this type of legislation.
I
This board
support
supports
this location.
that, well, this is where, right, this is where it comes out. Supporting the concept of continuum care is something this whole board
And-
supports.
And just to respond to Sean, this particular project, not the legislative project, affordability. Now, how do you tell me, who do you know in your family, life, and whoever, that on 100 independent units, I think the average rent's like $45,000 to $6,000 a month.
Do you know what it costs my mother to
So-
be in the
so-
nursing home?
so,
$10,000 a
This isn't
month.
this is, you're looking at $50,000 to $60,000 a year rent.
Yeah.
How much does that feel for the average person?
But you don't know what they're getting for that.
You have no.
They
I don't care what they get,
Yeah,
John.
they're getting meals,
56.
they're getting meals, they're getting, care that we
Well, I just want
can't
people
give
to
them.
understand, it's not something
They're
to walk in
giving-
that's affordable, you got 100
Doesn't matter
independent
whether it's
units, 100 independent units.
You missed the point. It
No, I
doesn't
understand.
matter. You missed the point.
No.
Because, of course you missed the point. You listen to the point. You
I listened to your point,
listen,
go
no,
ahead, I'm listening.
The person's going somewhere, period. The person's going somewhere. So whether they go here, or they go to San Simeon, or they go to the place that my mother went to, they're going somewhere. And somebody is going to pay for it, whether it's Medicaid, Medicare, private insurance, or the seller. They're going someplace. So why wouldn't you put it close to home?
Right.
Why wouldn't you?
I think it would be a lot of riveted people there. I think it's
There,
affordability issue.
it's happening right now.
But-
Every person that's
And that's-
going through this right now is putting their loved one somewhere.
All right,
That's a
back-
fact.
But to make it affordable, you have to have the density. If you don't have the density, it can't be affordable, because you have to be able to make it affordable for people. The problem that I see that everybody has is they're looking at the site plan. And the site plan, it can be solved in front of the planning board. What we're doing here is a zoning. We're not doing a site plan.
Right.
So I think any of these concerns can be brought up before the planning board
Planning
for a
board.
site plan.
But I
And the
think,
planning board,
Yes.
I just read what the planning board's interpretations on some of this. And generally was negative against this particular
Again,
project.
they're looking at the site plan, they're not looking at the zoning. And that's my only concern. We want to pass zoning, we're not passing a site plan.
That's exactly right.
That's it,
We are looking
Right.
at creating zoning,
Yes.
not advocating for any particular
right. That's
project.
it. No. And if the
I'm just
application,
responding.
if the applicant wants to put an application in for this site,
And they have a
it'll
problem with
go,
the site.
it'll go before the planning board, and then the planning board will then work out the differences that they have and the applicant. That's not our job. Our job is just for zoning, okay?
But
To make this affordable, we have to hook it up to a sewer district, we have to have a little density there, and we have to,
We have to
get the TDRs reduced, because, who's gonna pay for the TDRs, once they pay for it, is the occupants of that place, so that's gonna raise the price up. All we're trying to do, George, is keep this affordable, so people
How
from.
did they come up with the affordability number?
We
They
did.
looked at the average.
We
They
did.
did. How did they come up with
But we
the average?
We did.
And where did we get that number from?
We had,
Suffolk
it's
County?
the text, it's the text of
George,
the.
we
No, no.
had 2 years of hearings on this thing.
I
back
understand
and
that,
forth
but
and
the,
back and
no,
forth.
the affordability number for income for this, to make it an affordable project, is the number they have to take an average. They didn't take it from Riverhead, they took it from Suffolk County, am I correct?
It's
And
Nassau
Suffolk-
County
Nassau
median
County.
income.
Which is
Nassau
much higher than we are here. And
That's-
they can go 100,
That's where part of the text.
right, but I'm
I think
saying
we're
they
getting so
go,
far afield of
so
what.
that's where the number came
But
from.
we-
So-
We're talking about this
did that.
particular parcel.
Right,
We
so that number comes in, just, they can go 110% of that number. So that makes it, I think
Yes,
Nassau's,
that's what we
Suffolk is
decided.
74,000.
This board decided that when you
I'm
approved the text.
speaking, yes.
But
So that
everybody,
number of affordability is like $82,000. That's not Riverhead.
but
But you voted on
everybody,
That's our Riverhead.
But you voted on
Right.
that, is what we're
Right,
saying.
but
You did.
these are the points
I did.
that the planning board, as of 2 days ago, if I read their letter, brought that up.
but.
And that's the
George,
recommendation they're making, so it says
George,
where that.
everybody uses the Suffolk County,
Right,
figures.
right.
Those are the
Only
figures that
Nassau.
everybody uses. I think,
That's what's up.
Councilwoman, with their project, they use Suffolk County, everybody's using Suffolk County figures. So for us to deviate from what the rest of Suffolk County uses, I think is,
This was one of the
I don't
terms for planning
understand
board,
this.
that's all I'm saying.
yeah, I don't understand it.
Well, mine's a legal
I think we're
question.
getting off.
Mine's a legal, yeah, we are.
We are.
We're talking about a project, and we should be talking about a project. We're
Right,
talking
that's
about
what
zoning.
planning board,
So we can't talk about density, we can't talk about affordability, because
Right.
we're advocating or we're creating, we're working with the project and not with the zone.
right.
The consideration. Now, you had material facts that were omitted or material facts used to support its determination were erroneous. That's one reason for reconsideration. And the second one is what? There's a material change in federal, state, or county policy which establishes the basis for reconsideration of the application. What are those two things that we're going to be putting forth to justify the
Bill,
reconsideration?
how do you read that?
I'd have to
Is-
see,
is that-
I'd have to see what
is that the
what we're
commission's
submitting for the
obligation?
reconsideration.
The way I read that, the commission is obligated, before they reconsider this, to identify material facts or errors.
They need majority
I don't know
vote.
that it's our job to do that. I think it's their job to do that.
We would
Any
just
any
point
proposed
out-
action that was previously reviewed by the planning commission on which the decision was rendered will not be reviewed again by the commission unless requested by the referring agency, and after the commission by a majority vote of its members decides that, and those are the two criteria.
They have
It's
to
their
decide.
decision.
We refer it back to them, and they look at it again, decide whether there were facts omitted or an error, or the second one. So we would just ask for your referral, then the planning commission would decide, did we miss something or not?
Nothing's changed, and we're just, and they'll throw, now what happens when they throw it out again?
Then you need a 4-to-1 vote of the town board, need a supermajority of the town board.
So that's all we're asking, do we have any, new material for them to look at? If we don't have any new material,
We're not even asking that, they'll do it.
they'll do it, but I mean, that's what
Maybe they
we're
can
referring
get
back, and
advances.
they're gonna see, is there any new material? If there isn't, then we will look at it, if there is new material, we will look at the new material and not go back onto the old material.
And that's what we can do, we can
That's all we're
amend this application ever so, not as ever so slightly, that's not the right way to say it, but we can amend the application based on the planning staff report to satisfy some of these concerns. And I think the applicant understands that, and if we amend the application based on some of the Suffolk County planning staff's concerns, then we've it is a different application, and they would have an easier time saying, well, maybe we omitted this, and we should be looking at this, or the application is completely changed. The question is, are there 3 members that would pass a resolution to refer this back? I'm saying I will. I think that,
I will, because I think there is new information that they didn't have when they first looked at it. I think that we should.
What are those things, John? What are those?
I bet it was you.
do you want,
What are those?
come on,
Man,
yeah,
thank
just introduce yourself.
you. Keith Archer, Harris Brewer, Archer, this year. Working with Ron DeVito on this project.
So you represent,
Yes, yes. I guess I'm counsel, but as you know, Ron's a lawyer too. So Ron's really been shepherding this. You know, one of the interesting dynamics is that when we were at the Suffolk County Planning Commission, we really weren't given an opportunity. We were given 2-3 minutes. We weren't really able to provide much information to the commission, which I tried, but that those are their rules and they apply it to everybody, so I understood that. But you know, there was some information I think that the commission really didn't have, and that is, and you're right, the staff's recommendation was a recommendation of support with some conditions. But what really the commission, I don't believe, did was the extent to which, and it's all good, which land has been preserved in Riverhead. That $121 million has been spent over the last, since I think 1998, in preserving open space. All good, all good. And I don't think the commission may have actually viewed this differently had they known that. I mean, look, everybody knows that there's preservation programs, there's TDRs, but I don't know that the commission was aware of the extent of it. So, because the principal focus, I think, of the discussion at the commission was preservation of farming
On this particular parcel.
on this particular parcel. And in general, but it was also this particular parcel, right? Which some of the members really didn't even know probably the way you do. Its location, its relationship to other uses, and things of that nature. So all that I'm saying is that there probably is some information that the commission wasn't aware of at the time that it did consider this application.
So, Sean, you were, one of the attorneys in the town attorney's office at the time that we were buying up all this farmland. And what was the goal of the town to preserve as far as farmland is concerned?
Bob Kasikevich said to purchase 1,000 acres of farmland or I'd lose my job.
Okay. So, 1,000 acres of farmland.
That's right, and we were able to get 800 and we exhausted the $25 million. And one of the things that they looked at, one of the major points of the criteria was that it was actively being farmed. That was one of the major points. If it wasn't actively being farmed, it would not receive the same hard look, if you will, as an active farm.
And this hasn't been actively farmed since the early 80s.
90s.
Well, the
Early
90s.
90 up to, I know the farmer,
Right.
and some people here, 93, 94.
The whole
But it doesn't
parcel?
matter, it's not
Well, that's
actively being
right.
farmed.
I mean,
We would not.
the trees of this
The
house
owners
is
say
growing
30
in
years.
now.
What's that?
The owners have said it hasn't been farmed.
No, no.
about 30 years.
I know it's been farmed, okay?
Of
In the
owners.
90s, including, we have a member of the press that's moved in there in the 90s, and he said it was being farmed if you went there. Believe me,
Right.
I know the farmer.
Okay, so the
But
question,
anyway, why you would be here arguing that point and sitting at this table right now?
because I invited him.
Behooves me.
Uh,
I invited
You
him.
give advice, but you're not gonna get an interaction, arguing points with me. You're not here.
No, I'm not.
Okay, all right.
No, no.
Not my intention.
Okay.
No, I am.
So to
No,
answer
not you.
Jody's question.
You went back.
To
But
answer
I'm
Jody's
arguing
question,
with you.
if we
Not
had
I
two
am.
farms, say we had Bobby Hartman's farm that was actively producing, well, I think he had mostly sod at the time, because we bought some of his property, and this farm, we would have bought Bobby Hartman's, we would have bought any other farm. This would have been sort of at the end, if all the active farms had been purchased, then we would have looked at this. Unless there was really something critical to it, there were farms that we would purchase that were sort of keys that were missing in major blocks. So if there was a major block of farmland and right smack in the middle, we didn't purchase something, even if it wasn't actively being farmed, we would purchase it. I can't speak for the committee, but this wouldn't probably be one of those things because Home Depot's on one side. You know, it's not like driving down Sound Avenue, but it,
It's
you know,
gotta be,
it
you have
could
to
have
have a
been,
willing seller.
right, it could have been
Willing seller,
up there, but it would
it's
not
out
have
there.
received the same hard look that an active farm would have received.
Okay, and then the next concern that I have, which is substantial, is that I think that the zoning that we adopted for retirement community is being misinterpreted, because if you are permitted under the retirement community zoning to have 4 units per acre of independent living as of right, if you make 40% of the project affordable and for critical care, then you're using up all the density, because you've only got 25 acres. So at 4 units per acre, you're getting 100 independent living units. That's not counting the other 89 units that they're proposing. So I think that, you know, the 4 units per acre, are they counting the acreage over and over and over again when they're calculating independent units? Okay, we have 25 acres times 4 units, that's 100 units. Okay, so there's 100 units in our proposal.
That
Then
would
we
be a
have
site plan question.
25 acres. I know, but I feel that this project is too intense for Middle Road. I think that the traffic on Middle Road, I think that the 2 lanes on Middle Road, I think that when it was first proposed, I didn't know where the access was coming from, whether they were getting an easement over a farm to access off of Mill Road and then Middle Road also, or if it was just, I didn't know that there were wetlands on the site. I didn't know that, you know, it was considered prime soils. I know that there's other properties that are within APZ that aren't prime soils for farming. I didn't take a close look at the property because we weren't having the zone change hearing. We were adopting retirement community for the affordable assisted living component, which we need.
Yeah, but
So I think that the way it's proposed right now is not allowing for a cluster development and for any farming to take place on the property if at any time in the future it could be. And
Well,
I
But
need
those
to
are
look
all
at other.
site plan
No, no.
questions.
Yeah, but the problem is, I'm gonna say these are 2, I'm gonna say 2.5 years. We've had maps of what anybody wanted to do on that property.
John, we
We-
did not
we-
know the number of units that
But
they were
but why do
proposing.
we always wait, it seems like we always wait until the last minute and say, okay, well, I didn't know
You
this
keep
and I
saying
didn't know
that,
this.
John.
You had 2.5 years to
You've
do
been here
this,
for
Jody.
7 years, John. I've been here for not even 3 yet. So when other projects come in and it's discussed in executive session by our council once over my 3-year tenure, I don't consider that plenty of time. When an application is before me and I have to make a decision on it, that's when I do my research. And from yesterday until today, to find out whether or not we were gonna send this back to Suffolk County Planning is not enough time for me to be able to make an informative decision. I'm curious as to what Suffolk County soil maps say with farmlands that are left, that are zoned
But this hasn't been
APZ,
farmed.
and the
The
soil
trees are
type.
this high. Pretty soon
But
it'll be a
it may
forest
be,
there.
because farming land is people looking for it. Look what happened across the street, they're putting up all the horse barns.
Yeah.
You got a farm on the east, north, and west on part of it. I think this is a prime piece of
Well,
preserve. I think this is,
But I
what our
think
land, our bank we're talking about, you know.
I think
the
you're
bank.
taking.
This is a prime right now, because that's a nice
I
farm to
think
preserve.
you're taking farm to me, when you say farm, I'm thinking about a farmer tilling the soil and planting, not horses. So when you say farm, you say horse farm,
Well, that's
then
considered
there's
a farm.
horses
To
there.
you it is, but it's
There's
definitely not
horses
as a
north,
farm.
there's horses
This
east.
greenhouse is a farm, yeah.
Yes, right? Of course, but the general public, when you say a farm, thinks of plants. That
I
somebody's
think they
growing
think of
something.
horses and animals and cows.
Yeah, but a lot of people, I think, a lot of people coming out here, are moving from the West End. And they think a farm is a farm. I mean, you know, but the problem we're having here is that I think they're looking at the site plan instead of looking at the zoning, okay? And I think people on this board have to do a little investigation, but it seems like like the last thing, we wait till the last minute and do it at the last minute, and say, okay.
This
You know,
was put on
after
the
a
work
lot of
session
people
agenda today to
have
discuss.
put a lot
I
of
had
money
no
in it,
idea.
a lot of people have put a lot of money into this, just for the sewer department. We knew when the sewer department took $25,000 to do their study. We knew what was happening.
This
We didn't know the number of
See?
units that was being proposed,
This
John.
board knew probably more about this than they would any other
Right,
application.
yes.
That's not a fair, it's not fair for you to say that, it's not fair for you to say that.
I
we're
did not know the
blindsided.
number of units that was being proposed. We just adopted the zoning depicting
Well, I
how
don't
many
think
units per acre.
this
So
has
how
to
could
pass
they even
yet,
devise
so-
a site
Let me
plan?
ask
Well, who
you a
knew
question.
before, people change their minds, they get more.
Does the site plan also get referred to the planning commission?
It will be referred for the same reason.
Okay, so here's the issue, guys. Everything you've said is site plan. Everything Jim really talked about was site plan. My opinion
I have
is
talked
let's
about
get
site
the
plan.
zoning,
Talked
well, you
about
talked
site.
about
Site,
site, but
that's,
the site, the things you read out in there that were concerns would be things that would be handled in site plan. So the issue really for me is if you put the zoning, if you allow the zoning to move forward, you're gonna have the same exact debate again, but now you're gonna have all the facts, because the planning board's gonna go through it, they're gonna issue their report, the full site plan will be submitted to the planning commission, they will issue a report, and they may deny it then, and unfortunately for Mr. Archer's client, they denied then, there's even a much larger expense that has been incurred, and if you don't have a 4-to-1 vote, it's over at that point. But what I'm saying is, let's let it get to the next step. Let's let it get, we're only doing zoning,
We're going
let's let it get
backwards.
to the zoning.
it's not the next step, the next step will be a vote on the project. And then you're going back,
No,
because
the
you
next
want,
step-
you want a certain result here. The problem is this project and that site is not what we agree with. That project's great, it's not about even site plan, we don't want that in site. We want
Then you have to
preserve
amend it.
farmlands.
No, I don't.
That's the issue, it's not project
As far as I
on
know,
that site.
As far as I know, that seller has not come to the Farmland Select Committee and is offering his or her development rights to sell, so that's
It may
not
not,
your,
because it's
it's
some
not,
kind of estate zone,
there's not, I have no idea.
Well,
That's not an
so
issue
they
for
don't
us before the board right now. And I just wanted to get, let's move it to the next step. If it dies in site plan, then let it die when we have all the information, or if it survives site plan, let it survive when we have all the information. We can't even get it to the next step without the board either re-referring it or there to be a supermajority. And my opinion is, let's re-refer it. Let's see if the planning commission comes in a different, looks at it differently, and let it go through the site plan. The town board could wind up killing this in site plan if the same thing, well, the planning board would kill it. Because if the planning board doesn't agree with it in site plan, which you're saying they don't seem to be, then it may die anyway.
I hear all your concerns, and they are good concerns, but I don't think this is the time to discuss those concerns. I think it's site plan
Or we just let it do it. Said she said.
to discuss those concerns. And I
I
think
disagree.
that's what it is.
I disagree. I think if you're asking this board to make a decision to refer this back to Suffolk County Planning Commission, I think now is exactly the time to have this discussion.
So you would want a fully engineered,
No,
fully
a discussion about the merits, whether this is a viable thing, whether the location is a viable location. I think the legislation is perfect. I think the whole assisted living thing is very important to the town of Riverhead. I'm not sure I'm married to this one spot. I think there's plenty of
Well, I
areas
don't
that
think we're married to it. I think
we're going out of our way to make it happen.
because
Yes,
it's close
it's
to the
not part of
sewer,
the process.
it's close to the sewer.
Well, I know that was Sean's concern.
1,500 foot, and now we all voted on this, 1,500 foot from the sewer, right?
And who's gonna pay for that?
they are.
We're not paying for
But
it.
they had objection to it. I heard him say right out in one of the meetings that he objected.
Can I clarify?
Well, no, he wanted to renegotiate.
Yeah, it was-
He wanted to renegotiate it.
He's gonna have, the project has to pay to connect to the sewers. There was some additional work, I think, that was being discussed, a parallel line or something of that nature, that I think Ron had brought up as something that he wanted to discuss, because in trying to keep the project affordable,
Yeah.
it's adding a big expense, and maybe it's something that Riverhead really doesn't need, but would like, doesn't perhaps need it. Again, it was an effort to keep it affordable.
Yeah, and I think the pump station had to be upgraded, so these what they did is they got what the total cost is and what their share of that total cost would be. And I think that came out to 8%, if I'm right, because I do remember we had discussion. And I don't know what you're talking about, Jody. We've had discussion over the past 2 years about this, that after that they would be paid 8%, which would be almost $1 million to it. So they were trying to negotiate
Right?
that, so they wouldn't have to pay, but that's.
So is that $1 million that they're paying for 100 units on 25 acres, or is that $1 million that they're paying for
For the sewer
250 units, or for
For the
300
sewer
units?
department.
The number of units was
But
never
that's what the
discussed,
sewer,
John.
the sewer did their engineering and came up with this. I'm not an engineer, I don't know, certainly I'm not one that knows about sewer, but the sewer hired an engineering firm. The engineering firm came up with, this has to be happened.
The applicant did a mapping plan.
Yes, this has to be upgraded, we need, this pipe's going here. This is the total cost of the sewer district. What would be their share of that total cost?
And that's
And
why
they
they
came up
need
with
to
that
get the number of units that they need to get in order to pay for that cost.
Well, they
It's
had
built
to
into
give-
the cost of the units.
But they had to give something, because how do you do a sewer if you don't know how many people are gonna be
So they
flushing?
have to find out what their costs are
that-
going to be, so that they can determine the number of units that they need to pay
Yeah, so
for.
they would have to have the number of
Yeah.
units. So we knew back, because what we increased it, I think they only wanted to put 20%, and this board increased, they negotiated to 40%, and we upgraded to 40%. So we knew.
Right, and you know what?
So I don't think that you're telling the exact facts, that what we did know and what we didn't know.
You know what I do
That's
know?
all I'm saying.
I do know that if 40% of them are supposed to be affordable, then you have to take 25 acres, figure out what 40% of that 25 acres is, and then say you can have 8 units for that number, and then whatever's left over is your independent living units. Because you're double dipping into the yield for the 25 acres, and I think that we're
I don't
wasting
know.
everybody's
I don't know if
time,
they're doing that.
including Suffolk County Planning Commission's time, by sending it back when I think that it's too intense
You know
of
what
a development.
amazes me? And I look at the senior community and my support for this has grown with what happened to my mother and spending all this time going back and forth to different nursing homes, and my father having to make a decision that potentially she would have to go to Comac or into the city for the care she needed. And there are very few parcels that can support this in relation to where 1,500 to 2,000 senior citizens are. And I think this board's doing a disservice to those 2,000 senior citizens by not really looking at this parcel. And I was not a real proponent of this parcel, but I'm a proponent now of knowing what it takes out of a family to be driving 30, 40 miles to see your loved one. When we as a town, not this board, we as a town put those 2,000 senior units in this location, and we're doing a disservice to those people, but not putting the facilities that they're gonna need at the end stages of their life very close to where they are. And I support it 100%, and I think that there should be 3 people that support this.
But not just the family, but it's their neighbors that wanna go visit them.
John, I don't know how anybody would be able to afford to stay in their house in Stoneleigh Woods and be able to pay $5,000 a month to have somebody right down the road in an
Jody,
assisted
we had
living.
this conversation. It is not a question of whether you can afford it. You will do it, because it has to get done, period. When people are at that stage of their life, it has to get done. There's no, maybe we do it, maybe we don't. It has to get done.
Medicaid patients.
I think there's Medicaid available for some of the nursing.
Right, but not the general ones, because I think I
But
heard
not
some
on the-
conversation that you weren't looking for that
But a lot
support
of-
for
a
Medicaid,
lot
for
of-
those independent units.
And I think the
Okay.
supervisor and the board members know this, but most of the people pay for, at least this is my understanding, pay for this as a result of selling their house. In other words, they're really, as supervisor pointed out there, it's another stage of their life. Right? Yeah, well, yeah, and we, and we've seen this.
Going towards that.
Yeah, we've done other,
I feel like I'm getting towards it now.
Well, it's supplemented. You're looking for the clientele that's gonna be able to sell as and their finances dis-
well, the
pay for it.
demographics seem to support it.
Right, seniors support it, so we're not looking at Medicaid to supplement those independent units.
No, I mean, Ron would give you the better answer, but I think Medicaid would only be paying perhaps.
Right, so
some of the
it's
nursing
basically,
homes.
I'm thinking it's the better off seniors that
No, well,
would have some kind of real
you
estate
talk
holdings,
about
et cetera.
Medicare,
To initiate,
Or selling a
or
house.
selling a house, right, so the poor guy that's renting is not gonna
I-
get.
No,
But
you're
George,
talking
so
about
what-
Medicare.
Whatever, why would
So
I
what am I
discuss it?
supposed to do? Well, I mean, that would be more the reason to say, listen, give them more density so they can.
We're not saying who can afford to go to independent units, not looking to
Well,
supplement.
we're not talking,
Medicaid.
we're talking about.
Sell your
we're
house,
talking about
have
assisted living.
financial wherewithal to afford it.
And exactly, that's what people do. That's
Well,
what
we're
people,
talk-
that's what my family did. My father
Yeah.
had to do things that he would never have to do, and that's what you may have to do if it happens
But
in your
I-
Oh,
family.
we're talking
But
about
the river
assisted
is-
living here,
It doesn't
and
matter whether it's
Medicaid
riverhead
does
or
pay for assisted living. I had a neighbor that had to put his mother into an assisted living up west. Medicare paid for her to be in that facility.
Medicaid and Medicare does pay.
Yeah, so they do
Medicaid
pay.
does.
Some banks that are paying.
Yes.
Yeah, so they do pay.
Up the line, out of the independent units.
Well, we're talking about assisted living, we're not talking, but to make the assisted living affordable, they have to have independent living there also. So it's one package.
The independent living units kind of subsidize the,
Right,
the
and
expense.
that's 100 units.
Correct. You subsidize
So the
the
majority of
expense.
it is
Because
subsidized.
It's expensive, because remember, you're really caring for the.
Oh, no, I know it's
for the-
expensive, it's unfortunate.
It's very, I mean, if you were to look at what people were paying, there's one along the Long Island Expressway between exit 49 and 50, which is one that we had done zoning work on, and Ron DeVito has been involved in. It's owned by Brandywine, and they're paying significantly more.
Which town is that in? Which town is that in?
Huntington.
In Huntington.
It's on the north side of the, going eastbound on the LIE, and significantly. So in bringing it, you know, under $5,000, it really is making it affordable to people who need it. As the supervisor points out, they need it, they have no choice. And they do have the resources. People don't get thrown out of these facilities. There's always a way to keep them within the facility. So it's not a question of people not being able to pay. They're able to do it, and it's worked out with them.
I just think that we're doing it, and I have to agree with the supervisor, that we're doing a disservice to our senior population and telling them that once you need assisted living, we don't want you here. We'll put you out in the farmland someplace. So-
Well, that's what we're doing now, John. Putting them out in the farmland.
Well, this isn't farmland. This is not, again, this is not farmland. The
It is.
trees are this high.
The
that
shrubs
it's
go-
going
and they
to be
can
a
be cleared.
forest pretty soon. This is not farmland. Was agricultural land. It hasn't been agricultural land in at least 20 years. Now, I've been driving, I was a police officer here. I've never, and I beg to differ with you, I've never seen that farm, that place farmed.
But it can go back into farm.
So could EPCAL.
Go back to
Anything
farm.
can.
So could EPCAL.
Anything can.
And about 10 years ago, I cleared about 20 acres of straw like that we farmed.
You
It
know
was
what,
a tough job.
you know what I'm wrestling with now?
I'm sure, right?
I'm wrestling with now is, all of a sudden, either you support this project in its current location, or you don't care about the seniors in town. I don't like that analogy at all.
Well, but
That's
I'm not saying-
this is not
I'm not
where we're at.
saying-
This isn't either you
I'm
support the
not
seniors,
sa- no, but
or
I'm
you
not
don't.
saying this particular project, that's not my concern.
Well,
That's
you're
the
talking
planning
about
board.
density,
I'm
they need to do this, they
concerning-
need to do that, they
It's
need to
near
do
the
this.
sewer, it's near shopping,
I don't
so
know.
if somebody wants to walk down to shopping,
My,
it's into shopping.
But John, my concern is
That's
this,
my
every time I
concern.
mention something, you feel a need to defend it solely. I'm talking to the entire board, and you seem to be the one to do.
My opinion, that's my
Well,
opinion.
but
You
I
have
ha-
your opinion, I have
I
my
haven't had a
opinion.
chance to finish it. I know you advocate for it, I know, Art, I know, and I do too. I legislated with you, 5-0 vote, to create this type of legislation for Riverhead Township. period. I support the seniors, believe me. This is not me against the seniors, I don't want a place for my grandmother to go. It has nothing to do with it personally or morally. This has to do with a concern that the Suffolk County Planning Commission, which is a needed step that has to be taken, and whether we resubmit this plan back to them on its face with no changes, or if some of those changes have been addressed, to go back. That's what we're talking about. Has nothing to do whether you advocate for seniors or not. And I don't like that to be in
But
trouble.
you're saying I'm advocating for this project. I'm advocating because this project falls within the zoning. It's 1,500 foot from our sewer, it's
It falls
close to shopping,
It's 15 acres.
it's 25 acres.
John, as with anything,
that's-
as anything, and anybody out there knows that we do, when we draft legislation, we have a site in mind. A lot of times it's site specific. We do that all the time. We do that all the time to narrow the scope down. So that's, of
But
course,
Jim, here's
it's
the problem.
designed for this particular spot.
Here's the problem. This board didn't put all those seniors on Middle Road, those 2,000 seniors.
No, that was part of a bigger plan, right?
And
Long before
when
you were
you're
here.
89 years old,
Long for any of us were here.
and you're still driving, you're not wanting to drive to Epcot.
Oh, I know that.
And what I'm saying to you is, yes, it is about the seniors and it is about this location because we made the zoning 25 acres, so there's probably not 25 acres that's not farmland around here. So if it's not this site, where is it? Tell me where it is.
I don't know.
Or we have to change the zoning.
You said the 2,000 seniors,
There's something never told you what we got.
so we provide
You
2,000
give it
Whatever lives between
Thank
John's
you.
community, Stoneleigh.
Stoley, but they all paid the TDR, they paid for their project, that's different, Sean.
No, it's not,
It's a different,
George.
I understand it's provided, but those
George, that is-
applicants,
What is the difference? You can't compare.
you can go in either one of them, you can't
house
compare
and
me, this is
stone.
different, this is different, maybe
Have
not
you
in
ever
concept.
been to a facility like
Yes.
that? You've never been to a facility.
I have been in a facility.
Then how could you compare
I have.
this type of facility to a private individual house in Stoneleigh Woods?
You did,
I did not.
you said the 2,000s, where are you speaking of?
I
I thought you
said-
meant Stoley.
George,
You're
but I-
arguing against yourself, I understand that,
Can
I
you
thought
put your
you said
hands
that.
down? I find that.
You got yours up too.
I don't have my hands in my face, your face. That's
Oh, that's
offensive. George, you're putting your hands in my face.
I'm sitting this way, you're
George,
sitting that way.
what I'm saying is you
See,
have
you put your hands down, that's good.
2,000 units on Middle Road. You have 2,000 units on Middle Road.
Right, the different, right.
And what I'm saying is the proximity to
Oh, okay, I
those
thought you were
2,000
comparing it
units.
as.
No, the
Okay, then
proximity
you good.
to those
I'm good.
2,000 units
That's why I
is
answered the question.
what I'm saying, this is why this
I
location
believe
makes
metaphor,
sense.
so.
And if you can't, we, the board, said 25 acres, actually, I thought it was 15. We made it 25 acres. So now the question is, are we going back to a rezoning, another hearing on that zoning? Because 25 acres isn't going to work because there aren't any other spots that are 25 acres that are not going to be in the APZ.
We might be going back to looking at that zoning because I think that the way that it's being interpreted and the way that the site plan has been designed, that our zoning is being misinterpreted. Because if you've got 100 independent living units on 25 acres, then yet that uses up all your yield. So I think that our zoning, the way we adopted it, is being misinterpreted as to the yield. And I think that it needs to be cleaned up.
But that's the
Number
planning,
2.5 years of,
that's the planning board
okay,
that.
I'm ending this now. I'm ending this now.
You're talking about 2,000 seniors, and how many are gonna be assisted living? Because you know what, when my uncle had Lou Gehrig's disease a couple of years ago, and I was visiting him in an assisted living where he couldn't care for himself, there were 2 beds in 1 room, and I know what he was paying a month, and it wasn't anything near what we're gonna be asking for, or what I'm being told. We don't even know what affordable is. We don't even know if in our zoning.
5,000 is
What was
really,
he-
really
Okay,
What
affordable.
was he paying? What was he paying? You said you know, what was he paying?
2,500 a month
Because it was
for a bed,
it's 2 beds in a room.
yes.
Okay.
suite, it was a companion suite.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's companion suite, so each one paid 25, it's 5,000 for that room.
Okay.
Now, this is a
Did you
planning,
send your advocate?
huh?
Yeah, we'll have companion suites also, where it's less.
Yeah, so I mean, you, first of all,
Yeah, but we don't know that. We're creating an affordable aspect, but we don't know what they're proposing that's affordable. And we created legislation that said affordable, and we have 2,000 seniors that are gonna be looking for 24 units. So does that mean that when they come in and they say, okay, well, no, we don't have any units left, but we'll put you on a waiting list, and then they have 5 people on a waiting list, and one person's gonna say, okay, well, I'll pay 2,500, and the next person's gonna go, I'll pay 3,000, okay, I'll pay 3,500, I'll give you 4,000, because they want to put that in. I mean, we're the government, we shouldn't be dictating or even controlling whether or not it's affordable, and I don't even know how we do
Well, that's what
that
you
in a
wanna
rental.
do. That's
How
what
do we
you
do
wanna
that
do.
in a
Okay.
rental situation?
We're ending the conversation and we're gonna
That's what
take
you
a
wanna do.
straw,
How
we're
do we
gonna
do
take
that in
a
a
straw
rental
vote
situation?
now,
That's
guys.
why I think we need to go back
Okay,
and
we're
look at the
taking a
numbers.
straw vote now.
Alright.
I'm in favor of re-referring. John?
I'm in favor.
George?
No.
Jody?
Not at this time.
Jim?
Not right now.
Okay. So, thank you, John. Sorry. Bill Duffy.
Okay, wait.
Mr. Tibble, come on back up. We are, trying to avoid,
I see you so much now, now I know your first name.
can you vote in Riverhead yet?
No, not yet.
Welcome back.
You're all finished. There's no more cars.
Where, here's what our problem is. No, we're trying to avoid, if you will, having these car lots pop up everywhere. There's some instances where in the Pine Barrens, there's some instances where they want to go into sand mines. There's some DEC opinions that say they can go into sand mines. And I find that hugely problematic. And I think you know that.
That's surprising.
And very surprising. And so they're back and they need a little more property. And we have, the only thing we have left that's paved is the taxiway on the open runway, I guess. And part of that taxiway is owned by individuals. And part of that taxiway, half is owned by individuals, that being Riverhead Building Supply, I guess Skydive, and Berman's already leased his. That's probably the only two. Is there somebody else in there I'm missing?
Just the three owners.
And ourselves. So the question becomes, do we want to try to lease the amend this agreement one more time? You would have to get the same sort of agreement with Ray Maynard, because we would not want, it'd be a 4-month thing. We would have to be out of there in 4 months. And put more property out there for more cars, but then it contains it in a fenced area that is not really visible to the public, and it's not in sand mines and not in public parking lots that, because this is a 24/7 operation with lights and things like that, is it not?
The lights are just for the security. We're not operating out there.
But they're putting cars constantly, 24/7, cars come.
Tow trucks.
Tow trucks.
They may be sitting there, but they're not allowed to do that type of thing.
Okay, so,
What I see is, instead of having this all over the town of Riverhead, in 25, which is a roadway that hundreds of thousands of people use, to contain it in one area, and I think to contain it in EPCAL, where it's mostly screened, I mean, even a 10,000-foot runway, all you can see is the first row of cars. You can't see it in the back. And where you want to put these cars now, it's not visible from Route 25. And we're also helping some businesses there that own part of this taxiway. So we're doing two things. We're helping the businesses, and we are getting money for the town of Riverhead and helping our taxpayers. And it's invisible to the naked eye from Route 25.
We're helping some businesses that have help, but as I expressed to you in the past, there's tow trucks that are coming in and out of there on a regular basis, that are exceeding the speed limits, that are, I haven't seen any traffic control out there to ask them to slow down, or anybody when they come in to tell them to slow down. Other businesses are very upset that these trucks are coming in and out of there on a regular basis, and these are businesses that, you know, create the jobs for all of our communities, and I have a very big concern about that, because you told me that you were gonna put traffic control out there, and I haven't seen them.
Well, traffic control, what we're doing is we're instructing the guards. Two things, we gotta remember there's two companies operating out there with
Yeah,
tow
I was
trucks
gonna
coming
bring
in.
that up.
So it's not just our tow trucks coming in there. There's also tow trucks from the other companies operating on private property as well.
On what property?
Berman's property.
Berman's property.
Okay, I
That's
thought that they
enough.
were
No.
having to take the,
Berman's, no. I've been out there. What's happening, the ones going to this person's property are coming off of 25A. 90%, 95% are coming off of Route 25. It's a very short distance to the head of the runway. Actually, they don't go past any businesses.
well, they do,
The
because they
people-
overshoot it sometimes, but,
Well,
and then they turn around
Yeah,
in the
but
parking
the
lots.
other, I don't know how they overshoot when they have all these signs put up there, and you can see where all these cars are. But on the other side of the Berman property, they're coming from River Road and Manorville to get to the Berman property. That's private property, it has nothing to do with us. I think that we have to, look at the Berman property, because these cars are River Road. I think they're over limit. I think the police department should go down
They have
there
to.
and,
They have
and
to.
do wait, on these people coming in, especially with the car carriers.
603's
Right?
been in that.
So I mean, but we can't blame just one entity when you have two entities
I
there.
didn't know that there were still two entities there, I thought that Berman was, that
They
you
haven't
had
moved,
to
no,
move
they haven't
everything
moved
out.
any of his cars yet.
Okay, now,
Just
back to the
So
matter.
what is
Now that
the
we have
reason
that.
for that?
You have more cars that are needed to be stored, obviously. And you want to contract with businesses and wherever you go. When do you foresee an end to this? How is the cars doing generally in the area?
We're seeing that pretty fast, because actually we have 2,000 cars this week coming up for sale.
Are there more coming, but there's more coming in from other areas of the
No.
metropolitan area?
Oh, still coming from Long Island only. These cars are only Long Island-based cars, not coming in from any other state, New Jersey or anything like that.
Yeah. Now, I was up there yesterday, but not on his property, not on our property, but I was up at the entrance where they're doing the traffic light. And when I was there, I saw two car carriers leaving the property with cars on them.
Well, I know every
So
Monday-
they are taking.
Every Monday you have
cars-
the previews, and Tuesdays you have the auctions. I've been
And-
on the
and-
website, and I know what you're doing, I appreciate what you're
So
doing.
they
My
are
question to you
Mhm.
is, how many more cars are on the island that need to be stored? We must be getting towards the end.
We're getting towards that. We got, the estimate I just got this morning was between 7,500 and 9,500 cars left on the island.
Left.
Okay, but not all coming to EPCAL. We have other facilities that we're
I
taking.
was going to ask you that too, but you must have them all over the island.
We do. Unfortunately, I mean, this is a very bad event, as we know, and we have roughly between 250 and 275 acres that we're leasing throughout the island to.
Yeah, that's also at Belmont, you got Belmont?
We have Belmont, we have a facility in Bethpage, we have a couple facilities in Brookhaven as well.
Yeah, you have
And
to,
your permanent facilities.
Our permanent facility is in Brookhaven town, but it's in Bedford.
and you have Bold Hill, parking lot in Bold Hill.
It's Copart.
The amphitheater.
Is that called part of that?
Is that the end of the year?
That's the
I'm sorry,
amphitheater.
that is.
Yes, we know that Bold Hill. Right?
I'm a Chicago.
That's it, see,
And how many acres, did we figure out how many acres we own in the taxiway?
I didn't get to present the exact acreage, and it's kind of, the taxiway split down the middle. We own
Right.
one half, and then we have an easement over the other half that's privately owned by two different entities.
So what you're saying is you'd like to do the same 4-month thing for the taxiway that you're doing for the runway. You'll make a side agreement with the property owners to access their half, and then you're not going to be popping up all over Riverhead?
No.
I think that's
I
better.
think it's a win-win
I think it's
situation.
a-
And it would be the same one-time payment like we did the last time?
Yeah.
Yep.
Same
Any idea what we're looking at, we have to figure out the footage yet.
It has to be, we have to figure out the acreage on that.
Yeah, acreage.
Um,
Yeah, the same rate.
Yeah, and it's gonna be, again, that short month here because skydiving around needs to have.
Right, well, on that side, yes.
Yeah, see, his agreement with Skydive has to run what we do,
Right.
because Skydive needs that runway, and while a car, if one car is there, they can't take off.
And we lose a
The
lot of money.
FAA will not let them take off. So,
And
all
you lose
those,
a lot of money.
all those cars have to be removed.
They'll be off.
That
the
would
road.
reduce our primary, substantial.
I'm hoping you stay on our closed runway for a full year.
When you go to auction on Tuesdays, you do your auctions, every car goes one way or another?
Yes.
Whether it goes.
Now,
to
there's some
scrapyard
cars,
goes
there's some cars that insurance company may put a reserve on.
Okay.
As an example,
to- If they reach reserve.
there's a certain car like a Lamborghini or something like that, and they want to hit a reserve on it, or they want to try against much, they'll put a slight reserve on it, and we'll rerun it at our next auction.
Okay.
And we're actually going to have more than one, and we're not auctioning at the facility, we're actually up on Screens Hill, at our Medford facility. So we'll have, actually we'll have 1,000 cars coming up on Friday and 1,000 on Saturday.
Now, also,
We can go ahead and 5,000 on Wednesday.
also, they are doing what the DEC requests them to do. They were power washing the vehicles. The DEC
Well,
didn't
the
want-
details out there.
The DEC, yes, didn't want them to do that because of the fluids going into the groundwater, so they stopped that. So they are following what the DEC requests that they do.
I think we have an update, they did stop, the DEC said, as long as you don't wash the undercarriage, DEC is fine with them, not just washing the.
Oh, so that didn't change? Okay.
We have a ruling for the DC, but we stopped washing cars.
So we don't want to
We don't want to have any problems. We immediately, even though we got the room from DC, we immediately stopped washing cars.
Don't want you-
And also-
One of our insurance companies jumped out and started doing it, and I apologize.
And also, they have spill kits, in case something does spill. They have speedy dry right there, and they have, how many people working for your company you have going around on those areas?
50.
No, there's, right now, at the airport facility, right now, it's probably over 100 people working on a daily basis. From IA itself, we have our main branch manager there, and I would have to guess there's probably between 30 and 40 IA permanent employees from all over the country.
And I think our fire inspectors are there.
Your fire inspectors are almost on a daily, I know they're on a daily basis.
On a daily basis,
I was gonna
making
say almost, but I'll
sure,
say it.
making
Well,
sure.
they're
Not
They're
making
looking at
any
the
money,
cars.
though. They're not writing any tickets.
No, that's
They're
it.
making sure we do what we said we were going to
That's
do.
right.
You know, Dave needs to find a car, he's looking around.
And we disconnected the batteries as we did it.
That's right.
All right, so let's, is the board in favor of leasing the remaining tax limit?
Absolutely.
I am, yeah.
I am, Jim,
Yeah.
Jody.
Absolutely.
All right, so Bill, prepare the same sort of resolution.
You want to bet 10 more neighbors and we get paid.
And,
Do you want it to be in a ratified resolution, or just so you're gonna wait till, after we adopt the resolution?
do you need it right now?
Yes, sir.
Does the board want to ratify?
So I've ratified it,
That's fine. Come up with the price and go from there.
okay?
All right.
I wish we could do something about all those trucks that are plowing through there that are coming from 25 to
Well-
Berman's property. I wish that there was something that we could do about that because it really is becoming a dangerous situation. You know, my office is there and I have pulled out and I have, you know, had a truck come around a bend going 100 miles an hour or however fast they were going and they're just,
100 miles an hour, I can exaggerate just a little.
well, that's what it seems like when you're looking and
Yeah,
you're
you
getting
see a
ready to
block.
pull out and you see somebody coming by you.
What's that?
That almost, you know, you have to slam on your brakes halfway through the road and they're going around you.
No,
That's
they're
privately
private. We haven't taken Berman's roads over yet,
No.
so they're still privately owned.
I know, but maybe if we had,
Maybe we get
even just a sign that says, speed limit is this, and it's strictly enforced by Riverhead Police Department, even if it's not.
Maybe right outside the airport, maybe we can get, if it's not Riverhead, maybe we get Suffolk County to
No, it's
sit
not
on the roads.
outside.
Maybe we do some speed control on the outside of the airport, and it's and if they get a ticket, they'll slow down.
Right.
We'll have to get the informed sign down there. I think Gio has an informed sign.
Do you, Gio? You have an informed sign that we can put down there saying, slow down?
Who's paying for it?
You guys have the flashing,
Everybody else is making money, why
Okay,
not me?
well, we're done, we're gonna do resolutions You're done preparing the resolution, have everybody sign yes?
Okay?
And we'll go forward. Thank you.
And you're doing a good job.
Happy to take you on meeting.
You're doing a good job.
I'll be down here to look to the cosmos over here.
Thank you.
And we'll recommunicate to our towers.
Thank you.
You guys are gonna wait a while, it says in the resolution.
Phil Seeger, what's up?
Why not? He was here.
It's on for work session.
I can't, I'm sorry.
Executive session? Well, what is about storm, what's about storm drains, that's executive session.
So be fresh. What is the thing that, what are you guys talking about?
Lewis, 34 Lewis Drive.
Oh, ruin.
I don't know why it's executive session, Dan's gonna have to come tell us, because that's a private house.
I could imagine.
Yeah. Illicit discharge?
Okay. Let's do resolutions. One establishes time of regular meetings of the town board.
No.
Oh, my daughter's birthday.
We have to sing happy birthday to her.
Two, general fund marina and docks budget adjustment.
This is the one that everybody just signed this morning.
Yep.
Why is there, when you, back to number one, why is there 3 weeks between October 16th and November 6th? Like, why do we do that? Because sometimes I feel like too much time has lapsed and the board should have.
Do it
It's
the
the
first
way that,
and
yeah, it's
third.
just the way the calendar,
Yeah,
Balance.
you get one twice a year,
Tuesdays.
then you get 5 weeks in a year.
Twice a year, I think, 3 times a year it happens.
Twice a year it happens.
Twice a year.
I look forward to that, that's right on my list.
Same for us.
I think it's perfect.
Two, general fund marina and docks budget adjustment. It's,
This is just a ratification.
yeah, this is the one, you were here, we all so signed off on it.
Yeah, this is just a
To
ratification.
fund balance to fix them from storm damage. Three, appoints a representative to the Conic Bay Region Community Preservation Fund Advisory Opinion Bureau.
What is that?
What is that?
What is it?
It sounds like a bunch
This
of
is the,
talking heads to me.
we voted on a resolution previous to this saying that we would participate with other towns and figure out how to spend the CPF money or make recommendations on how to spend CPF money, right, Sean?
Well, they were trying to create a Conic Bay
Trying to
region
read.
so they could tap into more resources, what they were trying to do.
and
Right, it's not gonna work, but it's worth trying.
So what this is a fiscal
Yeah, this-
oversight committee.
No, it's not, it's an advisory opinion committee for the CPF funds of how
Right.
monies can be spent or can't be spent. I don't think they're looking, well, you could say it's fiscal because they are, they may tell you you can't buy something or can't spend money in certain areas, but I don't think they're looking at books and records or just,
No, I think they were
Give
trying to create a
interpretations.
more global East End to deal with the issue of CPF funds.
Now,
I think Anne Marie helped write the law.
Yeah, she did.
Well, Anne Marie's gonna be our representative.
Yep.
Okay.
For general fund buildings and grounds budget adjustment. This is Sandy, Mark,
Can I
fund
go
balance.
back to this? Can I just ask another question? When we appoint a town employee to be our representative, do they get any extra money? Or just voluntary?
Oh, this is volunteer.
part of their
Well,
job,
it's not volunteer, it's a part of
Part of
their
that-
job.
yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, she's doing a good job with the volunteer. So she's here for planning, she's here for everything.
Well, she flexes her hours.
She's-
Yeah, she's,
And that, the town attorney's job is not really a 35-hour-a-week job, never has been. Or deputy town attorney.
Neither is town council 16, or supervisors
14.
40.
For drop, general fund buildings and grounds budget adjustment. Fund balance 28,500, and this is all Sandy's stuff.
Yeah, again, it's just ratification, right?
Yeah.
What's ratification on number
We
4?
Everybody signed it.
Yeah, right. I'll look at the next.
I didn't sign the first one, I signed the second one. 5, 2012 New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation Clean Vessel Act Assistance Program. We're taking out the grant. This is for the pump out boat, putting it into equipment.
I think it's, right, I think it's the pump out station on the river that got affected, I believe. Pump out project.
6, Community Development Agency authorizes the chairman to execute a license agreement with Riverhead Adventures.
Yes, that's at, one more. Reese.
What is this?
Chris Witt was in talking about last week.
Oh, okay.
Talking about, having a, obstacle course.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
we just,
Let it go.
who's working on the license agreement?
Bob, it's attached.
I think it's in there.
Okay.
Okay, I think it's in here.
Is there a map?
No, I'm just looking at it here, Jody, where it says Exhibit A, but I don't have it, so I have to ask Bob for it.
There is a map, though.
Yeah, he just didn't attach
I
it.
have it on- I have it on my desk.
You know, how they're accessing and if there's.
I'll get it to you guys.
Based
Yep.
on the number of people they're expecting.
I'll ask him for it and I'll get it to you.
Yeah, I have it on my desk.
I'll tell you, this is the spot for this though.
Yeah.
And not off of Sound Avenue, what they had last year, a different outfit had up on Sound Avenue. This is a good spot for this.
Okay, that's $2,000, that's good.
Yeah, no problem. Want to donate?
And then donating it, to charities in
Yeah.
Town of Riverhead,
Right.
the proceeds, so.
That's all right.
Seven, amends resolution 454. Changing an account part-time from part-time to full-time, who is this?
This is water. This was
Oh,
our
yes,
Robin.
yes, yes.
Apparently, when she was hired off of a list, and she was put part-time, and when she
To
was
work
hired
under-
full-time, she was supposed to go to step 3A, which is the second step, not the P step, which was probation, because she was already on that for a year.
This is Lynn,
So it was brought to personnel's attention, and she changed it.
yes. She worked on the
Paying
morning
her
as a part.
retroactively back to June.
Of course.
Okay.
8, setting terms and conditions of employment for the deputy tax receiver.
I don't know why this was an oversight, I guess.
Now, is this finally the same?
No, hers has 100% health insurance. Lori said she was wanting to talk to you guys about that because apparently, and I'm sure George will remember, when they did the interviews, it was told to her that at the time, her insurance would be 100%. So she was under the impression that,
I don't understand why we were supposed to have one sort of contract agreement for everybody, and so that's not being followed now?
I believe that Meg is working on that, but you guys, I guess, because, you know, with Duffy, you had changed terms and conditions for him, and then the next person that came, Linda, it changed for her, so it
No, we never
didn't seem-
changed it for Duffy. Duffy was always 100%.
No, I'm saying as far as, you know, vacation time, sick time, that sort of thing. So it always changes, so there's not one
Yeah.
There's supposed to
specific.
be one specific, that's what we did.
I don't know who told her that. When
She was
we
told during the
When we
interview.
interviewed, we never told anybody.
Yeah, it was part of, remember when she handed out those papers, John, and it said, you know, what, the time of year that they don't want anybody to be taken off. It had the benefits package. I have the handout sheet
But
that
I
was
don't, you
handed out.
can't have, you get 75%, all my staff get 75%,
Right.
She does, Tracy does.
Tracy gets 75%, Cory gets 75%.
Okay.
It's gotta be,
You gotta be
Same.
fair. You can't lean for somebody and not lean for everybody else.
Okay.
You have to be straight,
Mhm.
as far as employees are concerned.
and is this then the same in every other aspect of it?
Oh, you mean the
Sick
contract?
time and vacation.
Vacations?
I think we should say, you know, 5 days of personal leave will be granted per year, and if you don't use it, you lose it.
That's what I thought we
Because
started
this says
putting.
it converts into sick
That's right.
time, and I don't like that. If you need a personal day, then
Oh, you'd have to
take
actually
it.
change
If you don't,
everybody's.
then
No, I think we just started this, we had the discussion a
Yeah.
couple months ago, and I think, who's last, I retired? I think it says in his that if he doesn't use it, he
In
loses it.
Duffy's, it says that it has to be used within the calendar year.
Yes,
Now, in Tracy's, it says the same thing that this one says, but CSCA allows you to carry over 3 weeks.
Okay, well, that's CSEA and that's contractual, so we really don't have any control over that. But when it comes to appointing people, we do have control over that.
and I don't wanna
so-
go back and forth.
Me
I'm favor,
I don't
favor him.
I think we
understand
should
how
change
we
Tracy's
don't
too.
have one
I know.
for everybody.
No, but 5 days personal,
Oh,
you
on
use
the
it or you
personal
lose
one.
it.
So, yeah, I have to agree with Councilwoman that if we don't use this in a year, they lose it. Yeah,
Otherwise, we keep deferring it and
Okay.
then,
that's right.
you know,
I'm not-
it's,
This one, the same thing, 5 days or you lose it 75%.
Yeah.
yeah.
It has
And that's
to
how you want from here on out.
from here on in. And
Okay.
Meg has to understand, these have to be the same.
I think she wanted it to be, but it was
Yeah, I
just
think it's important.
getting changed differently.
Because I know George and I did the interviews, and we never mentioned 100%.
Yeah, all the.
There was the handout, it was said to her, it was said to each
Yeah.
person that came in, it definitely was.
And if the department head says that, that's a department head, that's not us,
Mhm.
right?
Okay,
9, appoints a call-in personnel for the Riverhead Recreation Department.
I'm sorry, can I just go back to,
No.
the vacation time, do you want it 2 weeks for everybody here on out? That's how many,
Well,
right?
if they're just starting out,
Well, that's just 10 days.
Because I just
That is
want
10
to
days.
have Meg do a boilerplate contract so that we can have it
I
from
mean,
here
it
on out.
depends, if you're hiring
That's what I'm
a
saying.
clerk, if you're hiring this level, yeah, I
Mhm.
think 2 weeks is fair. If you're hiring an attorney or an engineer or something, that's a different position, or a department head,
That's
that's a
1 week.
different position.
Okay, but you'll always, the 75 will always be, and the personal time will always be.
But we have that all written out on a policy, already, we approved the policy last year.
Yeah, but I think it was rescinded
We
because,
rescinded it
yeah.
because they were automatically getting increases in vacation
Exactly.
time. We didn't want to automatically give
I think we
increases.
should revisit that policy too and say, you know, because when you get an employee that retires as of January 1st and they get a check for all their vacation time for the year and for their personal days and for everything else, I think that's wrong. I think that you need to make it accumulative or put
Right.
towards,
Well, there's a difference because this is an at-will employee.
Right.
The department heads have a contract,
Contractual.
they're not really they're at will, but they have a contract and
I'm just
some of
saying,
them have-
moving forward, it needs to be that, you know, you have to work 3 months in order to get 3 days vacation time. And if you know, decide to
we're
retire
not
before
giving
that 3 months, you gotta
75.
pay it back.
I'll change it all.
No, I want to make sure that she doesn't have section 75
Oh, protection?
protection. Let me see.
Okay. I don't see it in here, Sean.
It's its own section.
Yeah,
9, appoints a call-in personnel to the Riverhead Recreation Department. 10, accepts irrevocable letter of credit for Route 58 LLC, Water Key Monies, All Star Lanes LLC.
Yeah, first People's Bank was not gonna do it, and then when push comes to shove, they did, so.
What?
All right, who's gonna pay that? I'd rather have the money than the letter.
I think we need to revisit the accessory apartment review board, like Steve Romano brought up at the last town board meeting, as to how many applications we've taken in and how much it actually costs us to run that
I'm a big proponent of eliminating it and putting it in the building department, so
I think-
that
I agree.
one
That
stop
was my
shop.
position all
We're ready to
along,
move
so-
forward.
Okay, so put that before code revision and let's get rid of
Take
that.
it off, take it
before-
off for one more committee.
Save a few dollars.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it doesn't warrant, unfortunately. It's a shame, I like to keep it segregated over there, 2 or 3
So
permits a
adopts
year.
the local law amending chapter 108 entitled zoning of the town of Riverhead, and this is
Just
just
deals
the
with- that's
notice
just right,
required
keep
for
it.
accessory. 12 appoints Sinrak Kosakoff Messina LLP as special counsel in the matter of Donna Zlatnitsky, the town of Riverhead. I've asked Jonathan Sinrak to represent me, so
That's good.
I thought that we were handling this in-house, no?
do. What are you doing with yours?
Actually, I wanted to speak with the board and make sure we're all on the same page.
Okay.
before I make my decision.
13, authorizes supervisor to
No,
execute.
this is just for Sean.
This is just
Right,
for me.
the rest of
Just
you
for
will
Sean.
discuss in executive session.
Oh, okay.
It's not for,
I see, that's what
it's not
it's
for
just
town
for
board.
me.
Right.
It's just for Sean.
Sure.
Oh, I get my own attorney.
Nice. 13, authorizes the supervisor to execute a professional services agreement with George Hockbrookner Associates, Inc. This is for the lot of Gazette count that we talked about last week. This is the
If this goes through, I think that the money that would be well spent there.
well spent.
He knows the area, he knows the people. I mean, he even went to school with some of these people and hung around with them when they were.
Yep.
So he knows these people.
And he knows their wives.
So, yeah, right?
That's what he made a point of saying, if I
No
can't get
wives.
through to him.
So, that's it, see? Huh?
No, he's,
It's-
I
good
think
at
he's a
this.
gentle soul and he will,
Do a good job for him.
I think he'll move very well through Albany and federal government if we need him.
14, authorizes the supervisor to execute a lease agreement with Kiwanis Club of Greater Riverhead for storage of toys and tots.
This is the firehouse. Second
Firehouse
Street.
again. The toys for tots.
15, authorizes settlement of legal action with Field Day LLC. I cannot believe this came to fruition. Against the town of Riverhead and the Riverhead Police Chief. This is almost a little premature because they're coming in to talk to us.
Yep, Bob just wanted it in there anyway.
But this resolution, the authorized amount that we gave, which was $250,000, they've accepted it. The-
Really?
Yeah, can you believe that? And the insurance company is gonna kick in $750 and the whole thing's done for $1 million.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And we're done.
The chief is nice.
Okay.
The settlement will be $1 million with Field Day. The town will contribute $250,000, and the insurance company will contribute $750,000. And it ends it against the chief, the police chief, and the town of Riverhead, and it's over for us. It's still county. The litigation is still going forward with the county. I think I stole the thunder of what we're going to learn.
But what
Yeah,
you
tell them
originally
about
suing us
it.
for, it was 40?
Something crazy.
Yeah, 40 million?
I don't remember what it was, but it was something crazy. 16 authorizes the adoption of the incorporation of certain private roads into the town of Riverhead's highway system pursuant to Highway State Law 189, highways by use. This will get a public hearing on.
We had the highway superintendent testify that he
Would
was in
be.
favor of it.
17 authorizes amendment to resolution 940 for extension of time to remit real property taxes for senior citizens to the enhanced star. And this has to do with when social security checks, they can pay it because their social security checks may not be in time, so they get a couple days, 5 business days without penalty to pay their taxes after May 31st. 18, police department budget adjustment.
Tasers and dogs.
What's happening, I see dog, the control of dog personal service. What's happening with the, River Animal Shelter? Are we in a process to privatize it?
We're working on it.
Or, you know, that's been going on.
We're
for a
working
while.
on it.
Yeah, we got it, John.
We're getting there.
We'll keep you informed as we move forward. Tomorrow, we have a meeting tomorrow, anyways.
Appoints member to the Riverhead Farmland Preservation Committee, Rodney Anderson.
Right, Rodney Anderson's the local farmer. Who? Rodney Anderson, one of the younger fellows, the Farm Select Committee, this was the recommendation. George Bartnick left. So we created an opening, and this is actually hands-on with that.
Now, just from,
Involved with the young farmers, with farm bureaus. The young
Mr.
Andersons.
Anderson from Anderson Farm?
Yeah, they're all, yeah, one of the Andersons. is
Yes,
Bill
that's
Anderson.
all the same family.
That's the family?
Because if it was George Bartnick was on the Farmland Select,
I think Bartnick left, yeah.
was that, oh, he was a farmer because his father was a farmer? Because
He
it's
does
a
a
farming
greenhouse,
position.
right, Bartnick,
It
and
wasn't,
he, Bill, different point of view too.
That's
So,
Okay, we still don't have the resolution, Tara, for the Mercy High School on that wetlands.
Oh, no, I didn't get that.
I also need a resolution settling, the settlement with an employee. Deal.
I will get that.
We'll do that for the end of the year.
Yeah,
That's
I
Sean.
know, I had it on my desk
Who's
to
this?
do.
Oh, hey, Joanna.
We had to wrap up meeting
I think
too.
she's the one working on it, the
Yeah,
resolution.
but I think he wants it,
Mercy
you want to get it done
wetlands.
with the payroll going out.
We don't have it. She said she sent it.
Who?
Anne Marie.
When?
When? That's fine, just make sure Tara has it. Okay, thanks, bye-bye. All right, can I get a motion to go into executive session? I guess we do it in my office for the field day litigation. Zlotnitsky be the town board, workers' compensation, recreation, and cable vision contractual.
And
I
Lewin.
make that, I make
No,
that.
and Lewin Road. What?
Lewin Drive,
Lewin Drive, I don't know what. it
Lewin
is.
Drive,
Litigation.
highway stuff.
Yeah.
All right, I make that motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Those cards, that agreement is for the town portion of the tax.
Yes, the town portion of the taxiway.
They'll make a separate deal with the owners of the other half.
Can I throw this in my fireplace?
Why did you get it from who?
Comrade Dan.
What?
Who was that?
Comrade Dan.
They actually gave you a
I thought it was Joe.
Yeah, he goes,